The officer grips his baton tighter. His eyes narrow as he steps closer. "You people think you can do whatever you want, don't you?" His voice drips with arrogance. The black man stands still. He doesn't react. He doesn't argue. The officer smirks. "Hands behind your back, now!" The man sighs, his patience wearing thin. But before he can respond, the low rumble of an engine fills the air. A sleek, black SUV pulls up fast. Doors fly open. Men in suits step out. The officer takes one look at them, and his smirk vanishes. His hands tremble as he slowly steps back. His voice shakes. "Wait, who are you?" He just made the biggest mistake of his life. Before we continue the story, let us know, where are you watching from? The street is quiet. The sun beats down on the pavement. A few people walk past, barely paying attention. For the officer, this is just another routine stop. Another opportunity to show his authority. Officer Bradley has been on the force for years. He walks with confidence, entitlement, and power. He has never been questioned, never been challenged. He believes that his word is law. But today, he picked the wrong person. The black man standing in front of him doesn't react the way Bradley expects. No fear, no panic, just calm silence. His name is Marcus Carter. Dressed in a simple button-down and slacks, he looks like any ordinary man. No flashy jewelry, no expensive watch. Just quiet composure. Officer Bradley assumes he knows exactly who Marcus is. Just another black man in the wrong place. But what he doesn't know, Marcus isn't just anybody, and in a few seconds his entire perception of power is about to change. This isn't just another stop, and this isn't just another man. Final setup for suspense. The officer thinks he's in control, but he has no idea who he's messing with. The street is quiet, except for the occasional honk from passing cars. The late afternoon sun casts long shadows on the pavement. Officer Bradley stands tall, his baton tapping against his palm. He stares down at Marcus Carter, convinced that he has the upper hand. "You don't look like you belong here," he says, his voice dripping with arrogance. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" Marcus Carter doesn't flinch. His expression remains neutral. "Just taking a walk," he says. Bradley scoffs. "Taking a walk? In this part of town?" He takes a step closer. "You live around here?" Marcus keeps his posture relaxed. "Does it matter?" Bradley's jaw tightens. "You bet it does. I don't need any troublemakers hanging around where they shouldn't be." Marcus exhales slowly, staying calm. "And what makes you think I'm a troublemaker?" Bradley smirks. "I trust my instincts." Marcus nods slightly, as if he expected that answer. "And your instincts tell you that I don't belong here?" Bradley folds his arms. "That's right." A few pedestrians walk by, casting uneasy glances, but no one stops. No one interferes. Bradley tilts his head. "Let's see some ID." Marcus reaches into his pocket and hands over his driver's license. Bradley snatches it and barely glances at it before stuffing it into his pocket. "You work around here?" Bradley asks. Marcus nods. "Visiting for work." Bradley raises an eyebrow. "Work, huh? Doing what?" Marcus holds his gaze. "Security?" Bradley chuckles. "Security? What, like a mall cop?" Marcus doesn't respond. Bradley narrows his eyes. He doesn't like being ignored. "I asked you a question." Marcus remains silent for a beat before finally speaking. "I don't think my job is relevant here." Bradley steps closer. "You don't think." His smirk grows. "That's the problem. You don't think. Now, turn around." Marcus cocks his head slightly. "Excuse me?" "I said, turn around and put your hands behind your back," Bradley orders. Marcus stays still. "For what?" Bradley grips his baton. "You're resisting, that's what." Marcus clenches his jaw. He knows exactly what's happening. This is a power move, a test, a way to see if he'll react. Bradley reaches for his cuffs. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Marcus doesn't move. I think you're making a mistake. Bradley sneers. Oh, yeah? And what mistake is that? Just then, a deep rumbling sound fills the air, the sound of heavy tires rolling onto the pavement. Marcus doesn't react, but Bradley does. His head jerks up as a black SUV pulls up to the curb. The windows are tinted. The doors unlock. And then, 4 men step out. Suits, earpieces. Their movements are quick and calculated. Bradley stiffens. His hand, once confidently gripping his baton, slowly drops to his side. The tallest man in the group strides forward, his expression unreadable. His gaze locks onto Bradley. Is there a problem here, officer? Bradley's heart pounds. His instincts, the same ones he trusted so much a moment ago, scream at him. Something is wrong. His eyes dart to the badge clipped to the man's belt. The golden emblem gleams under the sunlight. Secret Service. Bradley's entire body goes rigid. The agent doesn't break eye contact. I asked you a question. Bradley clears his throat, his mind scrambling for an excuse. I was just handling a routine stop. The agent glances at Marcus. Sir, are you okay? Marcus nods. I'm fine. Bradley's mouth goes dry. His confidence is gone. The power he thought he had? Gone. The agent crosses his arms. Do you know who you just put your hands on? Bradley opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. His brain finally catches up to what's happening. Marcus Carter isn't just some random guy taking a walk. He isn't just security. He is part of the president's detail. Bradley just tried to arrest a man who could end his career with one phone call. The realization hits him like a truck. The second agent steps forward. Would you like us to call your department and have this sorted out? Bradley's stomach churns. His department? If they find out about this, he won't just be answering questions, he'll be answering for his job. He forces a stiff chuckle, trying to backpedal. No need for that. I was just, making sure everything was in order. Marcus finally speaks. Making sure everything was in order? He tilts his head. By putting your hands on me? Bradley stutters. I misunderstood the situation. The agent steps even closer, lowering his voice. No, officer, you didn't misunderstand anything. You thought you could intimidate him. You thought you had power here. Bradley swallows hard. The agent shakes his head. But you don't. Not anymore. The silence is suffocating. Bradley feels the weight of the moment pressing down on him. For the first time in his career, he is the one feeling powerless. Marcus finally reaches for his ID in Bradley's pocket. He takes it back, slow and deliberate. He doesn't rush. He doesn't break eye contact. You were saying something about me looking suspicious, Marcus says, his voice calm. Bradley's face burns with humiliation. The agent glances at him one last time before nodding toward the SUV. Let's go, sir. Marcus gives Bradley a final look before turning and walking toward the vehicle. Bradley doesn't move. He can't. The SUV doors close. The rumbling engine roars back to life. And then they're gone. Bradley stands frozen on the sidewalk, heart pounding. He thought he was in control. He thought he had power. But today, he learned the truth. Bradley knows his career is hanging by a thread. But what happens next? That will determine everything. Officer Bradley stands frozen, his mind racing. Just moments ago, he had complete control, or so he thought. Now, his world feels like it's spinning out of control. His hand twitches at his side. His pulse pounds in his ears. The Secret Service agents don't break eye contact. Their expressions remain unreadable. No anger, no aggression, just a cold, calculated awareness that they are in control now. The tallest agent steps forward again, adjusting his suit jacket. "Officer, do you have a reason for detaining Mr. Carter?" Bradley opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. He had been so sure, so confident, that Marcus was just another guy he could push around. Now, he isn't sure of anything. I just wanted to check his ID," he stammers, his voice barely above a whisper. The agent raises an eyebrow. "And you confiscated it. Why?" Bradley glances at Marcus, who remains calm, watching him. His stare feels heavier than any badge. I thought he was suspicious," Bradley mumbles. The agent doesn't blink. "Suspicious of what?" Bradley swallows hard. His throat is dry. He forces himself to stand taller. "I was just doing my job." The agent nods slowly. "Your job," which involves putting hands on an innocent man, grabbing his ID, accusing him of resisting, when all he did was ask a question. The words feel like a slap. Bradley feels a heat rising in his chest. He doesn't know whether it's anger or shame. The second agent, who has been watching silently, finally speaks. "What precinct are you from, officer?" Bradley hesitates. "Why?" The agent pulls out his phone. "Because we'll be having a conversation with your department." Bradley's stomach drops. He opens his mouth to protest, but he knows it's pointless. His badge suddenly feels a lot heavier. "Listen," Bradley says, his voice losing its edge. "This is a misunderstanding. I didn't mean—" The tall agent cuts him off. "Didn't mean to assume. Didn't mean to overstep your authority. Didn't mean to use force when there was no threat." Bradley clenches his fists. I thought—" Marcus finally speaks. His voice is low, calm, but there is no mistaking the weight behind it. "Number you didn't think." Bradley looks at him. Marcus steps forward, closing the distance between them. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't have to. "I've dealt with men like you my entire life," Marcus says. "Men who walk around believing they have all the power, because no one ever checks them." Bradley's breathing grows shallow. Marcus tilts his head slightly. "But today, you learned something, didn't you?" Bradley feels the weight of those words. For the first time in years, he feels small. The tall agent looks at Marcus. "What do you want to do?" Bradley's head jerks toward Marcus, his face pale. "Wait, what do you mean?" Marcus doesn't look away. He studies Bradley like a man deciding whether something is worth his time. He could make a call. He could end this man's career right here, right now. But instead, Marcus simply exhales. "I don't need to do anything," he says. "You already did it to yourself." The air feels like it's been sucked out of the street. The agent nods. "Noted." Bradley's breath is shaky. "Am I being arrested?" The agent tilts his head. "Should you be?" Bradley has no answer. The SUV doors open. The agents turn away, stepping inside. Marcus pauses for a moment, looking at Bradley one last time. Bradley waits for a final word, a final blow that will end his career. But Marcus just gives him a small, knowing nod before stepping into the vehicle. No anger, no threats, because Marcus doesn't need them. The SUV pulls away, disappearing down the street. Bradley is left standing there, his hands trembling. He knows one thing for sure. This moment will haunt him forever. The question isn't whether Bradley learned his lesson. It's whether it will change him. Officer Bradley stands alone on the sidewalk, his hands still trembling. The street that once felt like his domain now feels unfamiliar. Colder. The SUV carrying Marcus Carter and his security detail has disappeared, but the weight of what just happened lingers in the air. For the first time in his career, Bradley feels something new. Fear. He doesn't know what's going to happen next. He doesn't know if Marcus will make that call. He doesn't know if his department is about to receive a formal complaint that could end his career. He does know one thing: his life just changed. Hours later, Bradley sits in his patrol car staring blankly ahead. The radio crackles, but he barely hears it. His mind replays the moment over and over. The way the agents stepped out. The way Marcus looked at him, not with anger, not with fear, but with certainty. A certainty that Bradley had never encountered before. His phone buzzes. A message from his sergeant. Report to the station, now. His stomach churns. He knows what this is about. When he arrives at the precinct, the atmosphere is tense. A few officers glance at him but say nothing. The silence is louder than any words they could speak. The captain is waiting, arms crossed, jaw clenched. "Step into my office," he says. Bradley follows, his heartbeat hammering in his ears. The door closes behind him. "Sit," the captain orders. Bradley obeys. The captain tosses a folder onto the desk. "Do you know who Marcus Carter is?" Bradley nods slowly. "Now, I do." The captain glares at him. "You should have known before you put your hands on him." Bradley swallows hard. "I didn't realize." "You didn't realize," the captain repeats, his voice dripping with frustration. "That's your excuse? Do you know how many phone calls I got today?" Bradley looks down. He doesn't have an answer. The captain exhales sharply. "Do you have any idea how bad this could get for you? For all of us?" Bradley shifts uncomfortably. Is he pressing charges? The captain studies him for a long moment. "No." Bradley's head snaps up. "He's not?" The captain shakes his head. "Not yet. He didn't file a complaint. No official statement, nothing." A wave of relief washes over Bradley. But then, the captain leans forward, his expression dark. "But don't mistake that for forgiveness," he says. "Because while he may not have reported you, the world saw what happened." Bradley frowns. "What do you mean?" The captain sighs, reaching for his tablet. He turns the screen toward Bradley. A video is playing. The video. Bradley's blood runs cold. Someone recorded everything. It's already online. It's already spreading. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. He watches himself on the screen, sees himself grab Marcus's arm, hears his own voice dripping with authority, sees his own smirk just before the SUV arrived. Then, the moment everything changed. The comments below the video burn. He was so confident until the real power showed up. Badge doesn't mean anything when you don't know who you're messing with. This officer thought he could intimidate someone. He learned today. Bradley grips the armrests of the chair. His breathing is shallow. "Let me be clear," the captain says, voice sharp. "This isn't going away. You embarrassed this department, you embarrassed yourself, and now you're the face of every conversation about police abuse of power." Bradley's mouth is dry. "What happens now?" The captain leans back. "That depends." Bradley clenches his fists. "On what?" "On you," the captain says. "You have two choices." The room feels smaller, tighter. 1. You can resign quietly before this gets worse. Bradley's heart drops. "And 2, he asks, his voice barely above a whisper. The captain's gaze hardens. "You learn from this?" Bradley blinks. "What?" The captain exhales. "I've seen officers go down for less than this. You're lucky Marcus Carter didn't file a formal complaint. You're lucky the Secret Service didn't push for disciplinary action. But make no mistake, you won't get another chance." Bradley grips the edge of the desk. "So, what do I do?" The captain stares at him for a long time before speaking. "You figure out who you really are." Silence. Bradley doesn't move, doesn't breathe, because deep down he already knows the truth. For years he thought power came from his badge, from the fear in people's eyes when he spoke, from the unquestioned respect he demanded. But that wasn't power. That was an illusion. Real power was what Marcus Carter had. Calm, control, certainty. Power wasn't about making people fear you. It was about who you were when fear wasn't an option. Bradley stands up. "I won't resign," he says. The captain watches him. "Then don't waste this lesson." Bradley nods. For the first time, he doesn't walk out of the office with the same arrogance he used to carry. Because for the first time, he's not sure if he even deserves to wear that badge. Bradley has a choice. Does he change, or does he stay the same? Officer Bradley sits in his patrol car, staring at his reflection in the rearview mirror. The weight of everything that happened presses down on him like never before. For years, he thought he understood power. He thought wearing a badge made him untouchable. He thought he could act however he wanted without consequences. But now, his name is being dragged through every corner of the internet. He hasn't been fired yet. The department is still deciding what to do with him. But whether they let him stay or not, his reputation is shattered. At the station, other officers avoid him. Some shake their heads when they walk past. Others refuse to look at him at all. He knows what they're thinking. You got caught. And the truth is, they're right. If the cameras weren't rolling, if no one had filmed it, if Marcus Carter's security team had been just a few minutes late, Bradley wouldn't even be thinking about this. He wouldn't be sitting here questioning himself. He would have gone home, slept peacefully, and done it all over again tomorrow. That realization makes him sick, because it isn't about guilt. It isn't about right or wrong. It's about fear. Fear of what happens next. His phone vibrates. Another notification, another article, another clip of his face, his words, his smirk, plastered across every news outlet. The world is watching, and he can't escape it. But the one thing that keeps playing in his head over and over is Marcus Carter's face. Calm, collected, completely unfazed. That man could have ruined him, but he didn't. Marcus had every reason to destroy his career, to press charges, to make sure he never wore a badge again. But he didn't. Why? Why would a man with that much power just walk away? That thought follows Bradley everywhere, even when the department finally calls him in. When he enters the office, the captain is waiting. He doesn't even offer Bradley a chair. "You're suspended," the captain says, no emotion in his voice. Bradley nods. He was expecting this. "Indefinitely," the captain adds. Bradley's stomach drops. What does that mean? The captain leans forward, placing both hands on his desk. "It means you don't get to walk back in here like nothing happened. It means you either fix yourself or you don't come back at all." Bradley swallows. "And if I choose to come back?" The captain narrows his eyes. "Then you better figure out who you really are, because the guy I saw in that video, that guy doesn't belong here." Bradley stands there, heart pounding. A week ago, he would have argued. A week ago, he would have denied everything. But now he doesn't know what to say. So he just nods and walks out. For the first time in his life, he doesn't feel like a cop. For the first time, he feels like just another man. A man who finally understands that the world is bigger than his badge. Bradley thought power made him untouchable. But true power, that belongs to the ones who don't need to prove it. Bradley thought he had power. He thought his badge made him untouchable. But one moment, one mistake, one man, changed everything. Marcus Carter never had to raise his voice, never had to fight back, because true power doesn't need to prove itself. Bradley learned that the hard way. Now his name is everywhere, for all the wrong reasons. Suspended, humiliated, forced to face who he really is. But the real question isn't whether he'll get his job back. It's whether he'll change. Some lessons come easy. Others, they leave scars. And this is a scar he'll never forget. Now, let's talk. Have you ever seen someone abuse their power only to regret it? What happened? Drop your story in the comments. And before you go, remember, respect is not demanded. It is earned.